My nephew took away my freedom on a Thursday evening. Not a judge, not a doctor, not a stranger. The little boy I taught to ride a bicycle when he was 6 years old. I have now spent 231 days inside a place I never agreed to enter. And somehow, everybody keeps telling me he did it because he loves me. My name is Ruth Graves. I am 89 years old. And if you think your own family would never make a life-changing decision without asking what you actually want, I need you to keep listening, because what happened to me happens far more often than people realize. And I need to tell you what nobody warns you about before it happens. I lived alone for 17 years, and before you assume I was struggling, I wasn't. I had a small house I bought myself back in 1987, 2 bedrooms, a magnolia tree outside the kitchen window, a neighbor named Constance who came every Thursday afternoon for tea. I spent my mornings reading. I grew tomatoes in the backyard. I baked fresh bread every Sunday. It was quiet, but it was my quiet. Then last February, I had a small stroke. Doctors said I would recover fine. I could go home with a little extra help. That should have been the end of the story. It wasn't, because my nephew Curtis heard one word, stroke, and suddenly he decided I no longer belonged to myself. I still remember sitting at my own kitchen table. Curtis sat across from me holding a brochure. He had already researched facilities, already called ahead, already reserved a room. I remember staring at him, waiting for him to laugh, because surely this was absurd. Surely the boy whose scraped knees I bandaged when he was 7 wasn't sitting here calmly explaining why I no longer had the right to live inside my own home. But he never laughed. Instead, he said, "Aunt Ruth, this is the safest option." Safest for who? Certainly not me. The room they put me in is 11 feet by 13 feet. I know because I measured it with my cane on the 3rd morning. Cream walls, 1 narrow bed, a window facing a parking lot, no magnolia tree, no kitchen window, no smell of fresh bread on Sunday mornings. 3 weeks ago, I asked for toast instead of oatmeal at breakfast. The nurse smiled politely and said breakfast had already been prepared. Now listen carefully. That sounds small. It sounds insignificant. But after 200 days of tiny moments like that, you begin forgetting what choosing feels like. And once people remove enough choices from your life, something inside you starts disappearing, quietly. This place isn't abusive. That's the frightening part. The staff are polite. The food is decent. Nobody is hurting me. But every single day, someone else decides everything. When I wake up, when I eat, what I eat, when my room gets cleaned, what activities I should attend. Apparently surviving a stroke means other people start believing you no longer belong to yourself. Funny how quickly age makes people think surrender is normal, and after enough time, you stop fighting. Not because you agreed, because exhaustion starts feeling easier. Curtis calls me every other Sunday, usually 9 minutes, sometimes 12. He asks if I'm eating well. He asks whether the staff are kind. He asks if I'm joining activities. He asks these questions in the careful voice of a man who has convinced himself that asking is the same thing as caring. What I want to tell him is this: Curtis, I know you were frightened. I know watching me have a stroke scared you. I know part of you thought you were helping me, but you never asked me what I wanted, not once. You made a decision, then presented it to me like paperwork. Curtis, I am not a project. I am your aunt, and I taught you to ride a bicycle. Here is what scares me most: not dying. No, I've lived long enough to stop fearing that. What terrifies me is how easy it is for people to slowly disappear while still breathing. There is a woman here named Margaret, retired teacher, sharp mind, used to argue politics every afternoon in the dining hall. 3 months ago, she stopped arguing, stopped caring, stopped objecting. She now sits by the television for 6 hours every day staring at nothing. And I keep asking myself, how long before that becomes me? How long before I stop remembering who Ruth Graves was before all of this? That thought keeps me awake at night more than anything else. But something changed last week. My neighbor Constance never stopped fighting for me. While visiting every Saturday, she started making phone calls. Quietly, she found a woman named Patricia, a home care coordinator, and Patricia is coming this Friday, not to visit me, to assess whether I can go home. Do you know the first question Patricia plans to ask me? Are you safe? No. Can someone monitor your medication? No. She plans to ask me this: what does a good day look like when it belongs to you? Do you understand how powerful that question is? Nobody in this building has asked me that in 231 days. Not one person. So I want to say something very carefully. If someone you love is getting older, please hear me. Safety matters. Of course it does. But safety without freedom is not living. It is existing. Do not assume age means surrender. Do not mistake control for love. And please, before making life-changing decisions for someone you care about, ask them what they actually want. Then stay quiet long enough to hear the answer. Because sometimes the people trying hardest to protect us are the same people quietly taking our lives away. If you are watching this and you know exactly what I mean, stay here. There are more stories people our age need to tell, and too many people still are not listening. I have been counting 231 days, and I am not done counting yet.